And good morning, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Pass and Av Sports Show. I'm your host, James Scores, and with you and with me, as always, is a group of companions on this very important Saturday. Joey Marks and Frank Finnegan, once again, our guests this week. Gentlemen, good morning and happy Saturday to all.
Good morning, Philadelphia, and welcome in. This Saturday, it's gloomy and dreary and still feels like winter. We're going to brighten up your day with some good old fashioned NFL draft talk and Philadelphia Phillies hope springs eternal kind of discussion. But before we get down to it, Frank Finnegan, how you doing? Welcome in. And,
It's
man,
been it's been a couple minutes, boys. It's been a
yeah,
couple minutes. It's good to
Yeah,
see you guys. It's really good to see you guys.
yeah,
It's
it's
been a
been a while.
busy spring for me.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
I sold my house. I moved to New Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy now.
Oh boy.
So
Get the crooner hat ready.
that's right.
Yeah, right.
But no, life is good. Life is really good,
Yeah.
and it's good to see you. Always as always, Philadelphia sports talk is always on my mind.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. And speaking of Philly sports talk, we got a lot to get to on this very important Saturday. Eagles draft looming. We got the Phillies, Braves, and Dodgers recap series, and I cannot believe I got a little bit of a rant I'm going to talk about in this day and age of baseball. But Joe, it's a busy Saturday, so simply put, where do we begin?
Well, we begin with the Eagles, and the draft just around the corner, less than 2 weeks away. It's going to be an interesting draft because of all the holes that are on the Eagles' defense after the free agency, seeming uh, fire, yard sale. What it seemed like.
Yeah.
So my first question with the 32nd pick, this is the first time in a long time for the Eagles, probably ever in their franchise history, that they've had picks in the last pick in most of the rounds.
Mhm.
This is a time where usually the Eagles would be at this point where they have 10 or 12 picks and there would be more versatility within the draft. And there isn't as much. So with the first round pick at number 32, my question to you, Frank, is where do you think the Eagles go? Like, which one of those holes, those positions, do you think that the Eagles may try and target in that first round pick?
Well, first of all, I disagree with with your position about lack of versatility. They have 20 picks in the next two drafts, and 12 of which are in the first three rounds. With Howie Rosen on a telephone, that is unbelievable versatility. They, as much as they lost in the off season with defensive players, they're really not as bad as people think. And I don't think they're going to pick 32nd. I think it's going to be one of two things. They're either going to package and move up and get do what they always do when they're in a situation like this and draft for the trenches.
Mhm.
I would really like to see them draft that safety from Georgia. That kid, I would really love to see him
Yeah.
added to that backfield. That would be just, we have almost the whole entire Georgia defense now,
Yeah.
but
Right.
just adding that kid, he's a killer safety. He's a very 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 good player.
Right.
What's his name? His name's
Malachi Starks.
Malachi
Yeah.
Starks,
Starks.
right?
Starks. Yeah.
Um, that being said, there was a rumor floating around yesterday that a certain player in Pittsburgh is on the market,
Uh-huh.
and I would not be surprised if Howie put together a package with some of these draft picks and got us Mr. Watt.
Ooh.
And
So, speaking
uh,
of that,
uh,
I'm gonna touch on that, and one of the things that I'll say is I heard that rumor as well.
yeah,
Mr.
this close
Watt,
to the draft, it's pretty valid.
yeah, yeah, and Mr. Watt right now is looking for a new contract. He's
Right.
30 years old.
Yep.
He is still one of the premier defensemen in the defensive players in the league. Still,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's money.
so here's my thing. There was a podcast that I heard that said that the going rate for TJ Watt, what Pittsburgh potentially might ask for TJ, would be a third round pick. Now, I think his value is much higher than that, and I think Pittsburgh knows that his value is much higher than that. However, if you're talking about negotiating, I think that Howie Roseman's going to start with a third or a fourth, and go from there.
Well,
Now, yeah, he's got a lot more latitude, and this is what I would say: there is versatility more in next year's draft than there is this year's because of the compensation picks that we
right.
got from some of the free agents. That being said, doesn't mean you can't use some of those picks that aren't compensation picks,
Oh,
knowing that
sure.
you're going to have them for next year. Use them to move in to get someone like TJ right now and not lose much of your draft capital for this year. If you trade a third round pick, your third round pick for next year, knowing you're going to get a third round, you already have a third round compensation pick for Milton Williams. I mean, not Milton Williams, Josh Sweat.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about not having a third round pick next year because it's still
Uh,
going to be there for
oh,
the
there we go. Go.
compensation.
Yeah.
But you can potentially get a guy like TJ Watt for
Right.
rental. So
Oh, I don't think they'll get him for a
I
rental.
don't.
I don't think
Well,
it's.
it's
I don't
going to
think
be
it's going to
hard
be a
to
rental at all.
I think it's going to be hard to re-sign him when you got to give Jalen Carter his bag.
Right.
Well, I'm going
Um,
to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. The Eagles have. It doesn't matter what their salary cap number is. They can pay. They can pay DJ Watt whatever they want to pay him, and still have money left for Jalen Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they will still have the money left for him. The Eagles. He is a cap master, and how they do it. And you look at other teams and how they do it, and they completely blow it. Like Dallas is a story to an organization as Dallas is. It confounds me that they just don't know how to work a cap. I mean, they get themselves in so much cap trouble that they make it impossible for themselves to win, and they wonder why they can't win. I mean, they have the top end of their talent is so good, but the bottom end of their talent is like it's like a black hole.
Right.
And it's because they've done their cap wrong. And Howie, I guarantee you, if they want T.J. Watt, they'll be able to pay him $100 million, and they will still be able to pay Jalen Carter $125 million in another year.
yeah,
It's
No
not
doubt.
they'll find a way to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that's what Howie does. So I don't even worry about the money when it comes to if Howie wants a player and Jeffrey Lurie says yes, there's no way that he will not get that player.
So your
And
concern might be more what you have to give up to get that player.
I'm not even concerned about what they have to give up because
Yeah.
guess what? They don't need many players. They're the youngest. They are the youngest roster in the league. Right now, they are the youngest roster in the league. They have the youngest defense in the league. They have the second youngest offense in the league. They don't need a whole lot.
Right.
They
Mm-hmm.
just need to fill. They just need to fill holes that are not starting players. This is going to be an incredibly difficult roster to make as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, if you're a sixth rounder, you're not making this team. If
Right.
you're a fifth rounder, you're not making this team. There's too many good players, and to me, I think their biggest need is they got to get an edge rusher, which I think they're either going to trade up in the draft and get the one if they can't put the Watt deal together.
Yeah.
If they put the Watt deal together, they're not going to have to trade up into the first round. They're going to give up their first round pick maybe to get them, and that wouldn't bother me because
Yeah.
Right.
if they traded their first round pick to get Watt, then the money that first round pick would get is definitely going to wind up in either Watt's hands or in Carter's hands. So then it's just a matter of filling other space. So to me, what they really need is they need a safety, and they need because they're going to trade Goddard. Goddard is gone. And I
Yeah.
hate to tell you this, guys, and I really hate seeing Goddard gone, but they're going to trade Goddard, and that means they have to take a tight end. Well, luckily for them, there's about a half a dozen tight ends in college football that are probably first 3-round worthy.
Right.
There's some really good ones. We don't have a chicken shit chance in hell of getting the guy from Penn State. I'd love to get Warren, but that's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But there's a hell of a player in Michigan. There's a hell of a player in Wisconsin. There's a hell of a player in Iowa. I mean, like there are tight ends all over this
Yeah.
draft that they could get, and some of them are really good blocking tight ends, which what they thrive on. So I look for the Eagles to. I mean, this is a shot in the dark. I think they're going to get TJ. I think they're going to draft the safety, and I think they're going to draft the tight end, and then they're just going to fill need. They'll look for a third wide receiver, and there's plenty of those guys around.
Yeah,
Um,
well, let me put it this way, and before I do, I want to kind of ask James,
Sure.
what position do you think that the Eagles are going to fill on that with that 32nd pick in the first round?
Uh, well, it's kind of funny because you think about it. There's not a lot of things that have to be addressed in the draft, if you know what I mean. Because obviously, I mean, the one thing will be, I guess, the big priority will be edge rusher, maybe close to maybe tight end, maybe if that's the circumstance about that too. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, I mean, like even Frank alluded to, if Goddard's gone, maybe like look for a tight end to like fill that hole. um, Edge rusher, I think it would be a good case, but then again, like I mean, you got the players you need right now. Maybe you groom like obviously a couple players like a Jomo. Maybe like obviously Jalen Carter's gonna have another fantastic year, and also this will be the year that Jordan Davis has to step up too.
Yeah.
But I think the big priority coming into the draft will be maybe tight end. But I mean, sometimes like what Howie does, I don't think he's gonna stay at 32. Gonna admit. And I think he's going to probably think about probably going, maybe move up to maybe. I mean, if there's like a player that he wants to see, that he wants to get, he'll probably move up with some other teams to see, like if the player's still there, because that's what happened last year with Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, he was
Yeah.
like right
right.
there, and he was like right in our lap, and I mean, it could be the same thing too this year, but the
See,
difference is
he
what's
can
that?
make he can move up. I think if he really wanted to, with all the draft capital he has in the next 2 years, he
Yeah,
could probably move. He can probably move into like 15 or 16 from where he is,
no
Hmm.
doubt.
because he will sweeten the pot. He will
Yeah.
Hmm.
absolutely sweeten the pot,
Yeah,
because they can't afford 12 picks in the first 3 rounds the next 2 years.
No.
He's going to wheel and deal. I'm telling
hmm
you, how you're going to see Howie at his best in the next 2 weeks, and
Well,
he's going to get the players they need.
th-
yeah,
th- this is what I would say. So, in regards to your what you think they could be getting in the first round, Frank, here's the history. The history says, now I'm not saying you're wrong, but the history says that the Eagles have never drafted a safety in the first round in their
Oh,
history.
that's true. Right.
hmm
So there's that part. But the idea for me also is, I agree with you. If they go and get TJ Watt, then the next pressing um concern would be the safety. So I don't care if history says, and they still held on to that first round pick. Like, as good as TJ Watt is, we know that, yes, could he merit a first round pick? Sure. In a trade, sure. But with the draft capital that we have and what's coming out of Pittsburgh right now is their asking price or potential asking price, Howie has 3 or 4 fifth round picks this year. And you got to think, like I said, if you're able to package your third round pick next year, and some of those fifth round picks this year,
You can get
to
them.
go get him
Yeah.
this year, that only makes sense because you're not really losing much other than a couple fifth round picks, and TJ Watt is much better than a fifth round pick. And holding on to that
Yeah.
first round, yeah, and then holding on to that first round pick, then you figure out, okay, do you go and get like, now, Howie loves doing things from the trenches. Do you go and get someone like this guy Nolan, who's a defensive tackle, like, and you strengthen that line even more? Do you go and get like a tight end like a Mitchell, or like you guys are saying, the guy from Penn State? Like, do you guys go and get another edge and, put more depth and rotation into your defensive line? I think the position I'm going to be looking for is going to be that anybody on that defensive line. Because if we learned, whether it's a D tackle or an edge rusher, if we learned anything from the Super Bowl, is that the front four is what wins games,
Oh yeah.
because we put Pep, the guy that basically could not be sacked, the guy that would put his cape on and be Superman, we put him on skates in the
Mm,
biggest game of the year, and all because guys got to him early and often. And like there was some brought up that I had never really thought of, and it didn't really occur to me until late. So in that Super Bowl, this is how bad we shook Patrick Mahomes. At one series, he had back-to-back sacks against
mhm.
him, and then the next play, that third down play, was a Cooper DeJean pickoff.
Yeah.
This is the difference, is if you are able to get to the quarterback with your front four, you're letting Vic Fangio basically pick you apart secondary wise,
Yeah.
especially with the talent that he's got, and especially with the talent that he could potentially have. I mean, like you said, if Howie has the tools, he has the ability to put the great talent around these other great players. Jalen Carter, TJ Watt, whether it's, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, like these guys are all going to be great core players. Zach Bond, like
Mm,
there is a reason why the Philadelphia Eagles this year have made kind of history in the NFL. They're the first Super Bowl champs to ever sustain, keeping their core of their team intact
right.
after winning a Super Bowl. And
Right.
that hasn't always been the case.
No.
So this is going to be interesting because Howie still has a lot of toys. He has a lot of toys to play with as far as drafting. He has a lot of money where he didn't just become impulsive and say, I have to re-sign everybody or I have to sign the highest priced free agent. He basically said, I need to wait to make sure I make the best calculated moves for this team.
Well, he's earned the trust. That's for sure. His last 3 years, Howie has really uh, changed his own dynamic on how to be a general manager. I think he has matured so much into the position that if you underestimate Howie's ability to manage a situation, you are in for a rude awakening.
You know,
And if you see 215 on your caller ID, and, and you're a GM, you better be ready because you're about to get spanked,
you
and
know,
and you won't be able to help it because he's just going to make the deal too sweet for you to say no,
Right.
and the rest of the league's going to go, how the hell does he do this? You know, they're still trying to catch up to him. It's why the Eagles front office keeps getting poached. Like all the guys that have worked for Howie keep getting poached. It's like Andy Reid's coaching tree is all
Right.
over the league. Now Howie's front office tree is all over the league now. I mean, he
now
just knows how to do it.
here's what I would say. And Mike Mayock had an interview this past week where he talked a lot about Howie Roseman and about like what the perception of Howie is around the league to other general managers. Mike Mayock being one of those past general managers for
Yeah,
the Las Vegas Raiders.
right.
Um, Here's the thing. Mike Mayock said this, and it stood out to me. He's like, even at a young age, when Howie first came into this, um, general managers around the league said, okay, this guy is going to be smarter than all of us, and we have to be careful because he could outsmart all of us.
That's
And Mike
that's
basically
true.
was like, he basically did, because one of the things that many people may not realize is both Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman didn't come into this with an NFL background like most general managers.
Right.
Most general managers have an NFL background, whether they're former players or former executives or, such and such. The Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie came into this kind of from the outside looking in and treated the situation like they would a business. And I think that made things a lot different. And because they kind of saw it with the forest through the trees, so to speak, and kind of saw it down the road, like it made a huge difference when it came down to what kind of moves that they would make going forward when it comes down to contracts or draft picks or players or whatever. I mean, look at the guys that they have sustained for the duration of their career. It's hard to have players stay on the same team for their whole career in the NFL.
Yeah.
Jason
No, that
Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, like
Yep.
yeah.
these guys, just to name a
Yep.
few. You know, that matters because that means that those players not only have trust in their teammates and the team, but the franchise itself.
Yeah, and well, there's a level. I mean, just like the owners, the players really just want to get paid,
Hmm.
and Howie has facilitated this to the point where the players are completely comfortable. I mean, this is a team that guys want to come to because I mean, players talk. Their agents talk. I mean, they have agents that have players on different teams. They all know what's going on.
Hmm.
They
Right.
all, if Philadelphia comes knocking, you want to listen
Right.
because
Right.
you're going to an organization that actually gives a shit about you as a player
Right.
because they take care of you, and there are teams out there that just don't care. Like, I mean, you look at Cincinnati. I mean, that is a dumpster fire of a front office. To
Yeah.
to
Right.
not build a proper team around that incredible quarterback
Yeah.
is to me is criminal.
Yeah.
You're wasting that kid's talent, and they don't do it the right way. I mean,
Right.
how can you not try and put an offensive line in front of that guy?
Right.
I don't care if you give the wide receivers gajillions of dollars. It ain't going to help him if he's on his back.
Right.
You know, I mean, Jalen Hurts is a very, very good quarterback. Is he elite? I don't believe he is. But that offensive line makes him elite. That
Yeah.
offensive line buys him the time. I think he's very smart. I think he knows how to play the game. I mean, he grew up with a coach as a father, and he understands every single intricacy of the game, and he's very athletic. But is he elite? I don't think he is. I will never think I consider him elite. He's not an elite player, but he is very, very good. And with that offensive line, he is dangerous, and everybody knows it. Well, you give guys like guys from Cincinnati an offensive line like that, he's going to win. But
Yep.
they can't win with what he's got now. And I think Howie's got this managed. I think Howie's sitting there just eating his steak, waiting for the day to start and the phone to start ringing or him to start dialing the phone. And I think by the end of the draft, we're going to be very happy. We're going to be very happy.
Yeah. I'll bet. Yeah. No
You
question
know.
about it.
Well, I mean, here's my thing. So I would push back on how I feel about the word elite because I know that conversation has been thrown around with Jalen. But this
Right.
is what I would say is that with any quarterback, offensive line, and receivers, that whole partnership between those three,
Yeah.
it has to work in order for all of those players to
Yeah.
be effective and for the team to be effective. If Joe Burrow, like, here's the thing. Joe Burrow can be a great quarterback, but again, it's like you said, if he doesn't have a good offensive line, he's not going to be successful. Period.
Right.
If Jalen Hurts if you swapped the Cincinnati offensive line with the Eagles offensive line, and you put Jalen Hurts behind that offensive line, he would look like much worse of a quarterback than he
Yes.
is, and he would be exposed. Now,
Yes.
that doesn't make him like an irrelevant quarterback.
No. No.
That just makes him a talented quarterback around other talented players. Look,
Right.
Michael Jordan was around talented players, but he still had to be a talent in order to
Right.
do it. You couldn't just put him with a bunch of guys that, were
Yeah. No. No.
bench players and expect him to do what he did. He could be good, but like it would be a detriment.
I
Um,
think it's a truer statement to say that the Eagles' offensive team
is
is
elite.
elite. Is
Yes.
elite, and
Yes.
they make each other elite. I
Yes.
mean, there's no denying that. That offensive unit can do whatever they want to any team they want, and obviously to one of the best franchises in the last 7 years, Kansas City, they made them look like fools.
Yeah.
Okay, and now that being said, I really truly believed halfway through the season that Kansas City was a paper tiger. I really didn't believe they were as good as their record indicated. I thought they got lucky in a lot of games. I thought, they wound up with wins they really shouldn't have had, and put them in a position. And then at the end of the season, when it came to the playoffs, the teams they played against choked.
Yeah.
They fell into the trap of, oh my God, this is a legends. These are legends we're playing against. And the Eagles just went, nah, fuck. We're done. We're done.
Here's the thing, and I brought this up to a buddy of mine that I spoke with the other day, and it's the thing that I saw in Kansas City, because I didn't watch a ton of Kansas City games last season, but when we played them in the Super Bowl, obviously I paid attention. But
Right.
like the thing that I noticed about Kansas City is that Kansas City now is starting to look a little like the Andy Reid before he left the Eagles, where he's less reliant on getting star quality receivers in there as he was in the beginning of his
Yeah.
tenure in Kansas City.
That's true.
He's trying to kind of plug the holes with like receivers that he feels like could give him just enough, but not enough where it's a star talent. If we had, I believe, DK Metcalf go to the Steelers this offseason. Like,
Right.
could you imagine if DK Metcalf went to the Kansas City Chiefs? If
That would be a problem.
that would
That
be
would
a
be a problem.
huge problem.
That would be
And
a
like
problem.
but that's my point, is that Andy Reid could control that and chooses not to go after guys like that because he thinks, okay, I have this great quarterback, like he did with Donovan McNabb. He
Right.
puts all that pressure on that quarterback and says, I am not going to give you these expensive weapons. You're inexpensive enough of a commodity.
Well,
He
he's got a
doesn't.
bigger problem. He's got a bigger problem, Joe,
Sure.
than wide receiver. I mean, the Eagles exposed this.
Yeah.
His bigger problem is his offensive line is
Mhm.
not where it needs to be.
Right.
His left tackle is just horrible. He's just a horrible player, and I don't care what, if you go spend, just like Cincinnati, they spent their money on Chase and what's the
T.
other
Higgins.
right? They gave him their money, right? But they didn't spend the money where they needed to spend the money.
Right.
They can't afford both of those guys now and build an offensive line. They can't.
Right.
So Andy Reid has to do what he has to do, and the only way he can continue to do what he's doing is to put a better offensive line in front of Mahomes.
Right.
Mahomes is the best. He's the best I've seen since Montana, and that's including Tom. He's the best quarterback I've seen in 25 years.
Right.
But for him to continue that, he must reconstruct that offensive line
Right.
to where it protects him more, because the Eagles exposed him. They didn't need one blitz to get to him, and you can't have that happen in a Super Bowl. You just can't have it happen in a Super Bowl.
This is where I go with that like little holy trinity of the receivers, offensive line, and
Right.
quarterback. Because even if Andy fixed it, even if he fixed the offensive line, if you have inadequate receivers and Patrick Mahomes is throwing it to them and they're dropping it, then that's not helping you either.
Yeah,
Like
no.
that's the difference. You can't rely on Juju Smith-Schuster and Nico Hardman to kind of be your
Right.
go-to guys, and like
Right.
a rookie that and Xavier Worthy that was thrown into the Lions den essentially, and Travis
Who I think is
Kelce's
going to be a
getting
good player.
right. No, he is, but like Travis Kelce is like long in the tooth right now. You don't know if he's going to even end up coming back.
Right.
He's still like teetering on this.
Well, they gave him a deadline. You know that, right?
Yes, and like
he's going to come back.
well, you would hope, because here's my thing: if he doesn't, then the Chiefs are in a lot of trouble.
Yes, they are, because he's
they-
like,
he's a lot of their offense,
yeah.
and like they're also going to have Pacheco coming up for a contract too, so they're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
so-
it'll be interesting.
And what's funny about that, and this gets back to Howie Rosen. The Chiefs have a great team. They have a lot of trouble, but they don't have the capital that Howie has. They can't maneuver a deal without really hurting their chances later in the draft to go up and get a replacement for Kelsey.
Right.
So they can't move from where they are. They can't move from 31 without really hurting their chances to fill other positions. And so I don't think they're going to be able to do that. I don't think they're going to be able to. They're going to have to take maybe the second or third or maybe fourth tight end in the draft to fill the hole. Where if Howie wants it, he can get the number 2 guy. He can't get up to get Warren. I wish he could, but he's not going to be able to, and he wouldn't anyway because they never draft a safety or a tight end in the first round. They've never done it. But then again, who they drafted last year was a surprise. So I mean,
didn't even have to reach either.
That's the thing is like last year they've never drafted back-to-back corners. So they did they broke a lot of their rules if you think about it in the last year. They signed a running back to big time money. They re-signed a linebacker to big time money, and they drafted 2 back-to-back corners. So who knows? I mean, the safety. This is why I'm not saying that Frank is wrong because they've broken all the rules
they've broken all their norms. They've broken all their norms.
So why wouldn't this be any different? I mean, honestly, it couldn't. I mean, it honestly could be different than everyone is anticipating.
Yeah, they're in such a position now that Howie's got them in such a position. He's got his guns loaded so well that if he wanted to, he could trade for T.J. Watt, right, using draft capital, and still go up and get the safety from Georgia. and I mean, I would have like Micah Parsons draft day on a split screen just to watch the look on his face. Because every time the Eagles draft, he dies 1,000 deaths because he knows that every time the Eagles draft, they get one step further away from Dallas. And I mean, like, he just watches it and he goes, I don't know how he does this. I don't know. It's comical to watch him on draft day. It's really funny, and I always wait for the Eagles pick to come up, and the next thing you know that they're drafted ahead of him. And there's that guy from the Giants. I can't remember his name. He's like one of us, who wanted Devontae Smith in the draft, and the Eagles moved ahead of him, and the guy had a meltdown. It's like, he was live when that happened. He was live on draft day when that happened. Why don't they just leave us alone?
And yet,
was it Dave Gettleman? I think it was.
Yes, that's the guy's name. He was live on draft day when that happened. He was.
Oh
live.
My god! Oh yeah.
and yet the Giants still haven't learned their lesson.
No, they haven't.
With the Saquon and the kind of like the interesting.
This goes back years now.
I still can't believe that GM still has a job.
I am shocked. I am absolutely shocked. I mean, either the owner needs to be tested for like delirium or something. Like I'm more concerned about the Giants owner. Because if he's not seeing
Mara's not seeing it. He's just not seeing it.
Do we need
he hasn't
to get
slept good
in
almost 12 months.
That's an we need
to get a wellness check for the Giants owner. Yeah. We really do. We need to get like a wellness check up there for New York. Because I'm worried, and I shouldn't be, but I'm worried for any person that goes through like that kind of situation. And wow, I'm like that guy still having, even the coach still having a job. That's still amazing.
Unbelievable.
The one thing I haven't paid attention to, and I wish I had, was Washington had quite a few of their players who were on the last years of their deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of those guys they lost.
A lot on defense, but they made a lot of trades. So here's the thing: you talk about like draft capital for the Eagles. The Commanders had draft capital for obvious reasons. They've been rebuilding for a couple of years, and so they, trading for Larry Tunsil, and I believe they traded for who is the receiver that they picked up?
Debo.
Debo Samuel,
which is a mistake. That's a mistake. That's a mistake.
So, like, you got to think they're loading up to try and make a real strong move towards, competing with the Eagles.
Good luck with
Meanwhile,
that.
as you said with the Cowboys, you're talking about even though he had readjusted his contract, you're still talking about Dak Prescott over the next 3 years having a $90 million cap hit on
Yeah,
the Dallas Cowboys.
and no
So
trade clause.
you right. And so you are basically putting a noose around your neck if you're the Dallas Cowboys for 3 years, because if Dak doesn't show up and carry your team to glory, you're pretty much in the gutter.
And
Because
Micah doesn't have a contract.
well, yeah, and and there was a rumor that
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
heard about him going to a place like Cleveland and partnering up with a guy like Miles Garrett after Miles got paid. And I go, one head case goes to the other head case. It's like a bad joke waiting to happen, the
No,
beginning of a bad joke.
I would take that head case every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he would. I mean, he would love to come here and play. He
Oh,
would
I know.
absolutely love to come here and play
I
because
just
he knows without a shadow of a doubt if he came here to play, they're winning.
I want him on Sunday. I don't want the player the other 6 days.
I
Like
don't care.
like
I don't care.
I just
He's
don't
not.
want
He's not.
that guy.
He's not a problem. He's not. He's not. Like that kid from Texas who just got busted for sexual assault. That wide
Yeah.
receiver. He was a first round pick. He's going to disappear now. It's a
Yeah.
shame because he blew his career for
Yeah.
stupidity. But Dak's not that kind of
Yeah.
problem. Does he have a mouth? Is he opinionated? Yeah, but he's in Dallas. That's what they are. They're all blowhards.
Yeah, well,
They're all. But he came here. If he came here, no, no, no. There's a kangaroo court in that locker room. He would get in line. He would
and
absolutely get in line. You
and it
know,
would
Lane
start with
Johnson wouldn't put
Howie.
up. Well, no, Lane Johnson would take care of that. I mean, like
Oh,
Lane Johnson would be like, hey, listen, this is how we do it here. You want to win? You want to be here? This is how we do it.
Right.
You are an outstanding player. Play your game. Play with Carter. You're going to rack up more sacks than you've ever had in your entire life, and you're going to have a ball doing it. And guess what? You're going to have a parade, and it's going to be confetti, and you're going to be the man.
right.
That's exactly what happens when you come to Philly. We have become a destination,
Right.
and everybody wants to play here.
Well, I look at it like this: you have guys like Max Crosby that sit there and express interest. You have Miles Garrett that
Yeah,
expressed interest. And you know what? For both Max and Miles, they expressed interest
they
in the
use that
Eagles.
leverage. Yeah, they use it for
Exactly.
leverage.
That's my point. That they
Right,
used that interest, that expressing that interest to gain leverage for the
right,
situation they were currently in. They might have been bluffing from here to Sunday, but it doesn't matter
right.
because the team that they are a part of took it seriously. Like, oh wait, we don't want them to go to the Eagles. Like, no,
So much so that they screwed themselves budget wise.
right. Well, right, because you feel like that guy has got you over a barrel.
Right.
And having a team like the Eagles and having a guy like Howie Roseman that can wheel and deal, and that GM, like you had mentioned earlier, sees that 2-on-5 pop up and goes,
Yeah.
yeah, I know who's
Oh
calling.
man,
I know who's
I don't want
calling.
to pick this phone up. I don't want to pick
No,
this phone up. But
I
if I don't
know.
pick this phone up, I'm going to lose something.
It's like you see that generic text that when you get
Yeah.
a phone call, it's "I'll call you later." It's
Right.
like that's what most GMs are pushing. "I'll call you later" generic text to Howie Roseman because
And
they're
and
like,
and how he answers later was yesterday.
"Yeah, exactly, exactly." He's like that deal expired like 2 hours ago.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. Yeah.
But speaking of winning and deals and the situation, let's go to our Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay.
Oh
Um,
boy.
Good, bad, and the ugly. Well, let's start with the good. So in the past week and a half, we had the Phillies play the Dodgers and the Braves, two premier teams in the NL. Uh, the Dodgers series looked like we were here to stay, and we were planting the flag on the top of the NL, saying "Not so fast, Dodgers." And the Braves series felt like with how bad the Braves have started this season, it felt like the Braves took that flag and snapped it in half. Uh, I gotta ask, Frank. Start with the Dodgers series. What was your impressions of the Dodgers series with the Phillies?
Well, Roberts, their manager, was interviewed, and he said, I'm going to tell you something that we've noticed about the Phillies being here. He said they're different this year because it's all business over in that dugout. It's all business. I think the Phillies just they took the Dodgers and they went, you know what, we've beaten this team. Last 2 seasons, we've beaten this team. They don't scare us. And the Phillies starting rotation is a really good. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Walker has played really well.
We're gonna get to that because
I
I
know,
say
but
that.
but I mean, but when you look at what their starting rotation does now, and you have to take. I mean, I know there's a lot of things about Nola right now. He's 0-3, but it's April. Nola doesn't pitch well until the temperature gets above 70. And I mean, even not pitching well, he was just missing last night early in the game. He was just missing his own. He's close to being sharp, so I'm not worried about Nola. I'm not worried about what they did with Atlanta because Atlanta is trying to reprove themselves over what they did last year. And really, what let the Phillies down in that series was the bullpen, which is where they need help. Losing Hoffman was very big, and you're not answering that bell. They are at least one arm, probably two arms short in that bullpen, and they will not win in the playoffs if they go in with a bullpen that's two arms short. That World Series against Houston proved it.
Oh yeah,
Houston had 9 or 10 pitchers in their bullpen or in their rotation that could go, and we only had 7, and that
and,
killed us.
and you know
And
what? Like the Braves actually picked up one of those former Houston Astro bullpen pieces from that World Series on waivers, and I was kind of like, why aren't the Phillies more active on these waiver wires? Because like
well,
it just
it's
seems like that would help.
Well, I mean, I think what's keeping the Phillies in check right now with doing stuff like that is Painter and Suarez.
Mm.
They're Suarez coming back and Painter being ready are the two things that are holding them back. Because here's the deal: I pray Saiwan Walker has two more really good starts the way he's done now. Because if he does, they're going to trade him. Okay, if he's showing the rest of the league I'm fixed,
Mm.
he's going to go to a team that needs an arm that just gets them 5 innings a night, 6 innings a night, and they'll be able to trade him, get rid of that contract. Okay, Painter is I mean, Painter pitched yesterday. I think he pitched well. Um,
Yeah.
so they're looking at Painter for the end of May, beginning of June. He would be the 5th starter, and Suarez would do what he does best and go into the bullpen. The problem with that is Suarez is on a contract year,
Yep.
and I don't know if he will want to go into the bullpen. I think he's going to want to go back into the starting lineup because that maximizes his value. So that's a good problem to have in June, but they still need another arm, and I think they need an outfielder. Oh my God, do they need an outfielder? I mean, I'm not worried about Bohm, believe it or not. I'm not worried about Bohm. Bohm is a good player, and he'll settle down.
So
Um,
James, I'm going to ask you, what was your impressions of the Dodgers series?
It was one of those series that I thought it was. I thought it was like the series that the Phillies needed to get back on a roll again. And I think the other thing that I took out of it too was the Dodgers series. I mean that first game. I mean Luzardo was just fantastic, like no
yeah.
doubt. I thought he played. I thought he pitched very very well. But Nolan on that Saturday was a little shaky. But I think the other thing too that the thing I took out of that game on Sunday against the Dodgers was I guess it was just like they found a way to, even though yeah sometimes it was a little bit like, I mean, Sanchez was not on his game and it was kind of concerning a little bit, but the
hmm
good thing about it was the hitting was the big storyline in that whole entire series was they actually knew how to hit the baseball. I mean,
Right.
with that Brave series, I don't even know what happened. I can't even tell you. Like it looks like to me. I mean, it's just I mean how they beat the Dodgers. I was thinking, okay, now they look like they're going one step closer and going a lot easier said than done. Like they'll like look at the Braves and say, like we beat the Dodgers. I think we'll come into this series and play with more intensity. But I don't know what happened after that Dodgers series. But the difference was, I mean, it was a fun series to take 2 out of 3. I didn't expect them to sweep, but but the Braves series, though, I'll get into that a little bit later. But I mean, that Dodgers series was actually a fun series to watch, but at the same time, it was just at the same time. I mean, after that, it was just I don't know
Before
what
the
happened after that.
before the Dodgers series, I was having a conversation with my son. I said, "Look, if they come out of these next 6 games 3-3, I'll be thrilled.
Right,
I don't care. I don't care how they come out 3-3, but
Right.
how they came out 3-3." And I'm
Right.
like,
hmm
okay, they're two of the. I mean, there's 5 great teams in baseball right now. We just played 2 of them,
Yep.
right,
okay, and came out 3-3. So I'm like, okay, they can play with these teams. Yeah, they lost to Atlanta, but I mean, they lost to Atlanta because the bullpen failed. They ran out of arms. They
Yeah.
right,
didn't lose to Atlanta with their front squad. They lost to Atlanta with their bullpen. And I mean, Dombrowski, I really hope he was paying attention because if he wasn't, he's an idiot. Um, but but I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's seeing this, and I truly believe that the whole holdup with this is Suarez and Painter. They need to see where they're going to land, and that I mean, until they get to mid-June, they're going to be fine. It's scary that the Mets are playing as well as they are because their pitching staff is a shambles. I mean,
right.
it's a dumpster fire, but they're still finding ways to win games. That terrifies me.
Yeah,
That absolutely terrifies you. You're going to have you're possibly going to have 3 teams in this division with 90 wins. Think about that, boys.
wow.
You could have 3 teams in the NL East that win 90 or more games. What's that saying for the rest of the league? Like, holy crap, you know, I
Well,
mean,
I
they're going
I
to beat
also
teams up.
look I also look at it like the division. This division is going to beat the holy hell out of each other too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
with that being said, like they're going to beat the holy hell out of each other. And like here's the other thing. Is it safe for me to say, considering you're saying this about the Mets, is it safe for me to say that it's the Mets are going to Met? Like you're just waiting for them to Met. That
Well,
being that being said, is that still accurate considering they actually did well last year and they have Soto and they're performing well despite their pitching?
yeah, but you Joe, you get into the playoff times if they haven't fixed their pitching by
Oh,
August.
I
If
know.
they, I don't care how many bats you have. The Phillies proved this. You could be a great offensive team, but if you don't fix your pitching, when you get to the playoffs, you're playing the best pitchers in the league. And the
right.
Phillies proved that when you're playing the best pitchers in the league and you don't have the right discipline, you lose. You lose. This is why the Phillies have cut their chase rate down. This is why
Yep.
they've changed their approach at the plate. Um, Alec Bohm is yes, he's got a little bit of a crybaby problem, but I don't
Sure.
know if anybody's noticing. Alec Bohm's outs are hard outs. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
swinging early in the count. He's being aggressive, but he's hitting line drives. I mean, he had 3 shots in the last series that were just smoked, but they were hit right at people.
Yeah.
Right.
What I know about that is sooner or later he's going to be smoking the ball and it'll be out of somebody's reach.
Right.
Yeah.
Now for him, he doesn't hit enough home runs for me as a third baseman. He just doesn't. He just there's for a guy his size to not hit the home runs from that position is concerning to me.
Right.
And I don't know if he can fix that because
Keep
he's a line drive hitter. He's not an elevated uh, shot hitter. He
keep
just
keep
isn't.
keep something in mind. The last third baseman that the Phillies had that was a great home run hitter was Scott Rowland. So,
Who I
like,
hate it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
hated him.
So, I mean, like, just keep that in mind how long ago that was. But
Well, I mean,
the
it just tells you how hard it is to find.
right.
You
Yeah.
know,
But here's what I would say about the Dodgers series and the Braves series is that the Dodgers series showed me that when this team like looks down the barrel of like a good talented team like the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers came in like on fire
yeah, they
and
did. No losses.
untouchable.
Right.
And so you have the best player in Major League Baseball, probably today and maybe ever, we'll see at the end of this career, in Shohei Ohtani, and he was held to 1 hit in the whole series.
Well, they've done that to him for 2 years.
I
The
look,
Phillies.
they have,
We are Otani kryptonite as far as I'm concerned.
yes, and
Yeah.
like I think we're Dodgers kryptonite. For the
Yeah,
longest time that I've known, we have been the Dodgers kryptonite.
right.
Even back since '08. I mean, like people were
Yeah,
talking about the last couple of years. I'm like, wait a minute, what about '08?
Phillies beat
Like,
them in the playoffs a couple years in a row. They beat
yeah,
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
and like so
Jonathan Bronxton was their kryptonite. I mean, not
yeah.
the Phil was actually it was Bronxton that was their
Well,
Broxton. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But every time they brought Broxton in, thinking we got it, I'm
yeah,
like, thank you,
yeah.
feed
He
them
throws
up.
heaters.
Yep,
He throws heaters, and guess what they do with heaters?
yep. They go out the ballpark just as quickly as
Right.
they come in.
They go out faster than curveballs.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing about the Braves
Running
series.
trend too, like for the
I
last going back to '08 too, Joe.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with Frank's assessment about the Braves series about the bullpen. This has been a big concern for me
Yeah.
overall because I don't have the confidence in Joe Ross. I don't have the confidence in this Romero got
Who pitched
fella.
well last year? Who pitched well last night? You have to give him
Okay,
that.
okay, I agree, but like
His velo was up last night.
right, but here's my thing: the inconsistency of
Yeah.
some of these players. At least with Jeff Hoffman, and I mean even Orion Kerkering, like the last 2 years, Orion Kerkering's actually been a young, reliable talent. Now
Hmm.
he's a little shaky.
It's because
And
they're using him too much.
right. And so for me, it's like, okay, you need to get a guy that's going to level out this bullpen.
Well,
It
the problem with doing it now, Joe, if they try and go out and get a guy now, they're gonna overpay in a trade because
Hmm.
nobody's going to give a guy up in April. They're
Right.
just, I mean, unless you make it way too tantalizing.
right.
So they have to figure out a way to weather this storm and keep themselves viable. And I think they have. I mean, their offense is really doing well, regardless of a couple of the players on the team. But that hole in left field is just murder for me. I don't think there's any saving Marsh. I really don't think Marsh is nothing more to me now than a rotational player, and
I I
he
mean,
just
I feel like Marsh is that, but I don't think that Kapler is the answer either. And
no,
and I just feel like they could have went out and gotten a guy like a Tucker or something to that effect that
yeah,
they could have shored up that outfield, especially with the idea. Now we talked about this in the beginning of the season, and I'll bring it up again. Is like we talked about, the prospect of moving Turner out into the outfield
right,
or moving Bryce back out to the outfield. But here's the thing: you take out those pieces from the infield and move them to the outfield. Now you weaken your infield.
Right.
So I worry like it's cutting your nose off to spite your face.
right.
I
Hmm.
just don't know if that's a sound decision. I
Not
think
this
that
year. Not this
no.
year.
But now my question to you is with the talks of Painter, and we'll get into that in a minute. With the talks of having to solve this outfield, is someone like a Justin Crawford going to solve the problem?
Um,
I don't know. I don't know.
you know what? I have more faith in Justin Crawford's offensive ability than I do in Marsh's.
Mm,
I mean, he has hit
Hmm.
at every single level, and he's hit well at every single level, and he's hitting it in AAA at a very good level. I I don't now is he ready to take over an everyday position? I don't know.
right,
I think the Phillies are being careful with him, which they should be. They don't want to. They don't want to. Push this kid and then break him. It's the same thing with Miller. Like you
Right.
can't. That kid's not ready to play in the pros. He's just not. But
Hmm.
he may be next year. He
right,
may be ready to come up. In which case, your outfield is fixed next year because
Hmm.
right.
you'll have Crawford in center, and you'll have uh, what's his name in left. You'll be able
Oh,
to you'll be able to put Turner in left because Turner's a great. He's a good outfielder. He's a very good outfielder. He came up as an outfielder,
right.
and so you'll put Miller at short and leave Stott where he is, and your infield problem's fixed. Other than third base is bad because I
Yeah.
think as a third baseman, Alec Bohm is a very good third baseman
Right.
defensively. Defensively,
Now there is a rumor, and the Phillies are currently in St. Louis. There's a rumor for trading for Nolan Arenado,
Oh, I would love Arenado. I would love
Okay.
Arenado, but
I'll
and
take Arenado.
Arenado's 30, right?
yes,
I think
Yeah, I
so.
see.
Yeah, that's the problem.
but
Yep.
here's the thing, that guy's got 10 Gold Gloves.
Yeah, I know.
And,
Nolan Arenado would be really solidify that infield.
and,
I mean, if this was like
The
five,
bat.
I mean, if this was like 5 years ago, I would have took Arenado if he was.
I'd take him now if the price is right.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I'd take him now if the price is right.
I
I mean,
mean,
if they don't try and steal a Crawford from us or a Miller or a Painter, yeah, I would make a deal for him.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
the
I
thing.
think I think the deal might be like bomb money and maybe two prospects, but like they'd
I
be
would do that. I would do that. I mean, I love Baum, but I would do
yeah.
that. Because
And,
Arenado, I think, is 30 years old, so you figure you got 4 solid years left in him.
Right.
You got 4 solid years with that lineup of 25 to 30 home runs,
mhm.
uh, 85 to 95, 100 RBIs, a solid Gold Glove third baseman,
Mhm.
a really good protection piece behind.
Actually,
Uh,
he's 33. Actually,
oh, he's 33.
yeah. That's. I don't
That's
know.
yeah. I don't know if I can. I don't. How many years does he have left on his contract? I
Ah,
mean,
that's the thing.
there's a lot of considerations there. I'd have to look at his
Yeah, I didn't know
contract.
he was
Well,
that old.
Yeah, I
here's
thought he was 30.
here's
Yeah, as to
here's
why.
my thing. Alec Baum's 29.
Right.
So like you got a guy that's closing in on 30. You got a guy who's already proven with 10 Gold Gloves and still, like you said, could be a 25 home run hitter. Let me
Yeah.
explain something. Like the last third baseman we had with 10 plus Gold Glovers was Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, I know. I
So
know.
you're talking about putting someone at least defensively. I'm not going to put him in the same category as Mike Schmidt offensively,
Oh, he's
but
not.
at
He's
least
not.
defensively, the same caliber
Yes.
on this team, and that's saying a lot,
Yeah.
But here's where I kind of go to the Baum issue. I think that Alec Baum this year is the Reese Hoskins of a couple years ago.
Hmm.
He's kind of frustrated with himself, and he doesn't know how to get out of his own way. If we remember back when before Reese left that last year, he was very, very frustrated, went through hot and cold streaks where he would go, 0 and 24, 0 and 34. Like
Yeah.
he would go in those streaks where you would be pulling your hair out, going,
Yeah.
screaming from the mountaintops, trade Reese
Swinging
Hoskins.
at outside pitches.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it feels like Alec Baum is in that zone right now. And
Yeah.
I honestly think that the reason why Reese became adored towards the end of that season was because he got out of his own way. Now, whatever
Yeah.
he
Right.
did to do it, that's what Alec Baum needs to do now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And
time.
I'm not
Well,
I'm not
he's got to
sure if
grow
he
up. He's
can.
got to mature. He's got to mature as a player. He's got to mature as a human being.
You
You
know what?
know.
And I've heard that he's 29.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
come on, Joe. They're coddled babies. You know that. I
I,
mean, and I mean, in my opinion, he's probably 2 years behind the curve of maturation. Usually, it happens to a player when they get to like 27.
right.
They've gone through the baby stuff early in their career. Okay, where he's kind of had it really really good here. There's been guys in front of him, who have taken that kind of pressure off him, and he hasn't had to be a leader. But he has to be a leader because
Right.
those guys in front of him are older. They're all 4 years older than him,
Yep.
and I mean, as much as their contracts go on till, the end of time, they're not going to be here for the end of their contracts.
Right.
Harper's not going to be here for another 8 years. You know, I mean, you're going to look at this and go, Turner's not going to be here for another 9 years. You know,
Right.
he's going to be the leader, and
By
so
the
is
way,
Stott.
speaking of that, your guy got his money. Vlad Guerrero
Oh
Jr.
yeah,
signed
he
14
did.
years,
Yeah.
500 million.
$500 million. There's another guy
Jesus.
who was showing interest in coming to a desirable location, Philadelphia, and I mean he was showing that interest. His agent liked the idea of him coming here, and he used that leverage, and the team went, okay, well we're going to give you the money, and
Right.
they broke the bank. They
He's
gave him five
Mr.
hundred million
Canada.
bucks.
He's
Yeah,
Mr. Canada now.
just $500
Yeah.
million.
I mean, him and his daddy, like,
Yeah,
staying in
yeah,
Canada.
Yeah.
His dad with Montreal and
I was
him
gonna say
with
the Expos,
Toronto.
right?
Yep.
yeah, yep.
So I want to go into this Aaron Nola problem, and it's not
Mhm.
really as much of a problem because this is what I would say. He struggled. He's 0-3. Um, but his ERA and what he's given up, and I don't remember what he gave up in the first game, his first start, but I do
It was
remember
bad. It was
in the
bad. First game was bad.
in the last two games, he's only given up like 4 or 5 total runs.
Yeah.
And that's not egregious.
No,
And
no,
so,
no.
like, I kind of feel like Aaron's got put in this position where he's not getting the run support that he should. And my question is to you guys, if you're the starting that's number one. Number two, and it was brought up last night in the post game. Um his velo on his fastball is a little lower than it should be.
Yeah, it's about a mile, 2 miles
Mile,
slower.
yeah, and it's flattening out when it drops under 90 miles an hour. The fastball tends to flatten out and it starts to look more like a.
Well,
If it's
his
not a two seamer with movement and it's meant to be a four seamer, but it's that slow, it just flattens out like like a beach ball.
right. Well, his typical speed on a fastball is like 94,
Yeah.
and when he drops down, it drops down to 92. It makes it
Hmm.
a different pitch. It's rare when he's under 90 for a fastball. But if he is,
Well,
that's a problem.
it got under 90 last night. It hit 89 once or twice last
Uh,
night. So like that was
that's
telling.
that's concerning.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say that. Yeah, that is
That's very
concerning.
concerning. That's very concerning. But when I look at Nola, I mean, I was watching him pitch before I fell asleep. I was watching him pitch, and Nola was. I mean, there was a lot of pitches that he was just missing, and I mean by just missing, inches off the strike zone where he normally paints the corner and gets the call, and he was just off the plate, just a little bit inside, outside, up and down, and I thought this is just Nola wanting to get to the warm temperatures. When he can groove his pitches, and I mean he's always a slow start. The fact that his ERA is yeah, he's 0-3, but his ERA is I think sub 370.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Right.
He's just pitched in rotten luck. I'm not worried about Nola. I guarantee. Here's how I know I'm not worried about Nola. If the Phillies put a scroll up on all the MLB stadiums and said we're taking all offers for Aaron Nola, Dombrowski wouldn't have enough time in the day to answer all the phone calls.
Right.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't have enough time in the day to answer the phone calls because there isn't a team in this league that wouldn't take Aaron Nola, even with the contract he just signed. I mean, you could mortgage a team's future taking with Aaron Nola because he is a horse. He's a 200 inning horse, and they are just rare to find. And
It's kind of like what the Indians, if they ever did that, it's kind of like what the Indians did a couple of years back with Corey Kluber,
yeah,
and how they tried to say, okay, the only way we can move forward is moving this guy out and like getting a king's ransom for him.
they could get a king's ransom for Nola. It doesn't mean they won't do it because if Luzardo turns out to be like a gem that he appears to be,
Right.
that can make that happen. You could literally fix your team for a decade if that happens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could literally fix a team for a decade because they could fill any hole they have with a guy like Aaron Nola. They really could. I would hate to see him trade it because I love him,
Now,
I think he's a good pitcher.
speaking of a guy that could have filled a hole and has, surprisingly, Tywin Walker has shocked the world by coming out and not let up a one earned run.
Taiwan Walker.
And what in the hell? Like, what what is he drinking that I need to get a part of? Because this, wow, no
I'll
one
tell you,
saw this coming.
I, they haven't said it. I don't know if they will. I don't think he was completely healthy last year
Mm,
because the one thing I noticed about Taiwan Walker this year that wasn't there last year is he's got a little bit more zip on his fastball. It's only a mile an hour. It's only maybe a mile an hour, maybe 2 miles an hour. But last year he was struggling to get to 92.
mm,
Okay, I mean that makes him eminently hittable, which is
yeah,
obvious. I mean he was getting rocked everywhere. Now he touched 94 a couple times in the game this week, and he touched 94 in his first game. I think his arm. I think he had a little dead arm last year because he couldn't throw 94 last year at all.
yeah,
Um, and that makes his slider and splitter a lot more unhittable.
yeah,
So, I mean, does he still pitch himself into spots? He's never been a great pitcher. He's been a good pitcher. He's a fifth pitcher. You know,
yeah.
in the rotation, he's the number 5 pitcher. But if he gets 2 more starts like this, I'm trading him. I'm trading him to a team that's desperate for an arm. I mean, he's doing exactly what I wanted him to do. He's doing. I'm trying to get myself back on track because he's in a prove it. He's in a prove it mode right now, because he knows if he doesn't prove it, he's gone. Even though they owe him money, I mean, yeah, the money's great, but you still want to play. You don't want to be told you're done as a player, and they would be telling him you are done.
N-
You know,
Now, do you trade him or do you move him to the bullpen when
no,
Ranger comes back?
he is not a bullpen pitcher. I would never trust that man coming out of the bullpen. He doesn't have a. It's because he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough speed on his fastball. He's not.
Right.
He's not a guy that can. I mean, like Ruiz is not a great pitcher, but when he comes out of the bullpen, he's throwing 98.
Yeah.
I mean that's scary. If you're a batter and the guy, maybe you might think the guy maybe he doesn't have that quite control, but he's throwing 98, so I better be ready. You know, Taiwan Walker is not instilling that fear in anybody.
Well, that's
Or
why
not,
Jose Alvarado has to put the fear of God in the
and
people.
see, and here's the thing about that. I love Jose Alvarado. I don't trust him.
Mm,
Hmm.
Because he's wild.
yeah.
Jose gets himself in trouble, and I just don't trust him. And this is why I say their bullpen is an arm short. At least one arm short.
Right.
No, the only thing that'll make me happy is Painter coming here and taking over the number 5 spot, or Ruiz or Suarez coming back taking the number 5 spot. You know, uh,
So,
and I think Suarez coming back and taking the number 5 spot, they're going to trade him. They're going to
mm,
trade Ranger. They're absolutely, because I don't think they want to pay him because of his inability to finish the season. So if he comes back 2 weeks from now and he starts throwing well and kicks Taiwan Walker out of the number 5 spot and he has 3 good starts, by the trade deadline, they're going to trade that left-hander for some quality player. They're going to get it too. They will absolutely get a great player for him. But
I could see this trade deadline and the way that Frank's even saying, because I don't disagree with much of what Frank's saying right now, because, Ranger has been inconsistent the last year and a half.
it's not
And
inconsistent. It's injury. He runs out of
Well,
gas.
yeah, well, that plus his back is
Right.
always ailing him.
Right.
So you start to wonder, okay, even if this guy comes back and starts, like when's that back going to flare up again?
Yep.
And that's what you worry, and then you have to shut him down for like a month, and that's the inconsistency, and then you're left in a hole. But so I agree with you with trading Ranger. I agree with Tywin. If there is, I mean, I would have in the beginning of the season. I said I would have taken a bag of donuts for Tywin Walker. But if this guy gives me 2 or 3 more starts where he's not giving up much and not,
Right.
and doing what he's been doing, and I'm able to get someone decent,
Right.
you're talking about 3 potential guys that can get you back a decent, return in Alec Baum, Tywin Walker, and Ranger Suarez. That could
Yeah,
fix a lot. That could
I,
fix a
I,
lot.
they come out of this. I want an outfield right hand power bat.
Hmm.
That's what I want. And Taiwan Walker, you're right. In spring training, I'd have taken the same bag of donuts. Right now, he's worked up to a box of steakums. I mean, he's come up in the world.
Yes.
It's steakums. It's not ribeye. It's steakums.
No.
Maybe after two more starts, he'll be up to maybe a flank steak.
Little baby petite steak,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, maybe baby petite steak, but he's working his way up. Is the point? Is the point? Actually, I'm very encouraged about. I'm rooting for him because I want them to succeed, and for them to succeed, you can't have a guy out there. Okay, we're going to lose the fifth game every week.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I mean for him to go out and play well and pitch well enough to keep himself in the game for 5 or 6 innings, but then you're getting into the problem with the bullpen. I mean
Yeah.
because he can't go 6 or 7 innings, exposes the bullpen.
Yes.
And that's a problem. You can pitch as well as you want for those 5 innings, but if you can't get past 6, this is what bothers me with Nola early in the year, because early in the season Nola has a hard time getting past the 6th inning without getting rocked. But later in the season, yeah, he can. Once he gets over that middle innings hump, he's like money until the end of the 8th inning. He just becomes money. He always has that spot in the middle of a game where it's like his second, maybe the beginning of the third time through the order where somebody hits him and hits a home run off him. But he never gives up. I mean, he never gives up more than 2 or 3 runs in a game.
Yeah.
He's always keeping you in it. Where Walker's a potential, 9-run 2-route rally. I mean, he could just burn a team down in 1 inning.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have Noel's kind of talent. He never did. But I think they could trade him for something if he gets a couple more decent starts.
I mean
But you can't put him in the bullpen. You cannot
No.
put him in the bullpen.
But that's a decent haul that you could give
Yeah.
or like trade to a team and potentially get something decent on the return. Now,
Yeah.
speaking of return, we have 2 key guys that are coming up for a contract. One is a guy that's playing. Well, both guys are playing out of their minds
Yes.
right now, and that's Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto.
I
My
think Schwarber
question-
hasn't looked at the calendar. He thinks it's June.
And we haven't shown him the calendar. Everyone, like Tom McCarthy was saying, like he's playing like it's June. I'm like,
Yeah.
Tom, we're not mentioning that it's not.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it yet.
Don't tell him anything. We're not. It is June. It's June
Yeah.
10th. Like, stop talking.
It's June
about-
32nd.
Like,
Right.
come on, man. And so, like, the idea that Kyle Schwarber is in a contract year, JT Realmuto, he's a machine. I mean, but both are up for a contract year. If you're Dave Dombrowski, you can only sign one. Who you bringing back?
Schwarber.
Schwarbs.
Schwartz.
And I mean, I love JT, but that the position just the problem with being a catcher is and I was a catcher. The problem with being a catcher is that you hit a spot, you're playing great, you hit a spot, and then you just go, and it just drops right off.
Right.
I saw it with Bob Boone. Bob Boone played great for 10 years, and then
The
gone.
only one I would say, well, there are select few. I would say Yadier Molina,
Oh, Yachty was
Dutch, and
Yeah.
Pudge.
yeah.
Those are the 3 that come to mind right
Well,
away.
in my era, the Yachty, Pudge, and Dutch analogy would be Carlton Fisk.
Oh yeah,
Carlton Fisk played him and Dempsey for the Orioles. They played forever and they played at a high level. I mean, they were just really, really good players for a really long time. I worry about JT because he's not built like those guys.
right.
JT is more slender. He's more sleek. He's way faster. But I can't give JT a 4-year contract at this point. I
No.
can't. Where Schwarbs, he's a DH. he could stand back there and thump balls for the next 4 years and be just perfectly fine.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
He's like,
I
you
mean,
mean I get to hit balls out of the ballpark for 4
yeah,
more years?
he could be this team's who was the guy for Boston? He could be this team's
David
Poppy.
Ortiz. Yep.
Yeah, he could be Poppy. He
Yeah.
could be Poppy for this team for the next 4 or 5 years.
Now,
Yeah,
and here's the thing: you would think, okay, Kyle Schwarber, since he's been here, like at this point, so he's not hitting the ball out of the ballpark as often. No, he is, and
yeah,
then some. He's
yeah.
not hitting the ball out of the ballpark as hard. No, he
No,
is.
no, he is. He is.
Yeah, 465 feet the other day in Atlanta, and then he
Right.
hit another 400 bomb with one hand.
Yeah,
Like you one armed the ball over the fence for 400 feet. Like what the hell, man?
yeah,
But you brought up earlier about Andrew Painter,
yeah.
and this ought to give some people some reasons to be excited. So kid comes off Tommy John. He's only 22 years old. He was in Class A ball last night. He threw. He topped out at 100 miles an hour with movement.
Yeah.
And so this kid is it looks like he's a flamethrower.
Yeah,
And he's got the makeup. People are comparing him to a Cole Hamels in the way he conducts himself on the mound. Very
that's
calm,
encouraging.
cool, very calm, cool, and collective. Very
Unflappable.
calculating with his pitching.
Unflappable.
Yes.
Unflappable.
So you got to think about this now. The prospect of bringing him up in June or July, it looks very promising. My
Hmm.
question to you is: at what point do you say, "I've seen enough. I need to have him come up now"? At what point do you say, "Okay, he's moving through Class A ball. He's going to Double A. He's going to Triple A"? That movement has to be swift, but it has to be calculated because you got to know he's
Yeah.
handling each level.
Yeah.
My question is there a possibility that Painter makes any leaps up to MLB, or are the Phillies not going to rush that guy to the show?
Um, you're gonna laugh. This is directly dependent on Saiwan Walker. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's a joke that I said it, but but Painter's ascent to the major leagues is directly related to Taiwan Walker's ability to continue to pitch well.
Mm,
Because if Taiwan Walker continues to pitch well, they are going to trade him because there's going to be a team that needs an arm. And they're going to go, okay, we'll take a chance on this and pitch this guy the rest of the season. I'm telling you, Taiwan Walker will not be on this team in July. He will not be here in July. And it's quite possible that neither will Ranger Suarez.
This Phillies team could look very different after July. That is for
I
sure.
don't think
And
it'll look different. I think it'll look better. I
well,
think we'll have a right-handed bat. I think we will have a right-handed outfield bat, and I think we will have at least one, if not two more arms in the bullpen. And it'll be directly related to how. I mean, not directly, but at least indirectly related to how well Taiwan Walker can pitch again. That is definitely going to make or break how this happens
I
because they have to get rid of his contract. They have to get rid of it. It's $18 million a year. They
yes,
have to get rid of it. Okay, so if they can, even if they pay some of it to get rid of him,
yeah,
and he's pitching well enough for another team to go, okay, we'll take a chance on him because the Phillies gave us a discount rate. We only got to pay half his salary. They're going to pay the other half. Okay, so then the Phillies can bring back Ranger Suarez and bring up Andrew Painter.
yep.
Okay. Now the problem there becomes Suarez because Suarez is going to want to start to make his markability better. But Painter, you want him in that rotation. You
Mhm.
absolutely want him in that rotation. I don't want him in the bullpen. I don't want them to yo-yo that kid. I want that kid to be on a schedule, and he's going to pitch every fifth or sixth day. And I don't want that messed with because that kid throws missiles.
Yes.
I mean, missiles. I mean, I love Ranger Suarez, but he doesn't have that kind of arm. He doesn't have that kind of talent.
And
I mean,
by the way,
Painter in 3 years could be their ace.
by the way,
Absolutely be their ace.
so Painter could throw 100 miles an hour with his fastball, but he also has a slider. Just so people are clear on
Yeah,
it, that's like an 82 mile an hour with a 4.5-inch cut.
right.
So this is a guy that knows
he
how to
also
move.
throws a 98 mile an hour slider that's unhittable.
Well, yeah, and that 98 mile an hour slider, like most people would kind of almost say it's a cutter, but the
Right.
way that the way his pitches move, it moves a lot further than the cutter. Like when you have a 4-inch
It,
dip in
okay,
your slider, it means you're moving it from one end of the side the box to the other.
his break on his slider with power
It is
is
ridiculous.
very much like Steve Carlton's.
Wow.
And Steve Carlton's slider was unhittable when he was at his best. He was unhittable. That's why he was the greatest left-handed strikeout artist that we knew.
Wow.
I mean, Painter's got that kind of ability. He really, really does. Um, and that's scary to think about because I watched Carlton pitch most of his career here, and I would really relish the possibility of watching a Carlton pitch for another 10 years here.
Wow. I mean, from a perspective of me and James, who have never seen Carlton pitch,
Yeah.
the idea of being able to see a guy that can do that. I mean, me and you have had this conversation with your dad several
Yep.
times
Oh yeah.
about, a pitcher and a thrower. This guy has the movement like he's got the stuff like a thrower, but
Right.
he's got the movement like a pitcher.
Well,
Yeah.
Jamie Moyer was like that too, and he knew how to locate like a pitch too.
Right.
Yeah,
And like
Jamie Moore couldn't throw a fastball through a wet paper bag, though.
no.
No, that's the thing.
But he could
That's the thing.
tell you where he's gonna put it and
Yeah.
put it there.
Right.
He could put it on a tee where the catcher wanted it
Right.
all the time.
Yep.
But so that's what made Jamie so successful. It's that he could put the pitch anywhere in the box
Right.
that the catcher wanted him to put it, but he couldn't out throw you.
No,
he couldn't
no.
he
Right.
couldn't throw a 95 mile an hour pitch if
He
his
couldn't
arm,
throw a 90 mile an hour pitch.
His arm will fall in his day.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
His fastball was like 88, 87. And
Yep.
the only time he ever got his fastball over is because the batter was looking for a breaking pitch. Yeah,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
I
you
mean that's like the big deal is that, but the break point of what they were talking about with Andrew Painter, like shocked me because usually the break point for a slider is usually about an inch to an inch and a half
right.
because
No,
it's about a box. Like if you look at that nine box, it's about a box to a little bit more than a box and a half.
Yeah.
Painter's going from one end of the plate to the other.
to make an analogy, Steve Carlton's slider was if you're thinking 12-6 curveball, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of going 12-6, work to the very dead center of the clock where the dials are connected,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and it was center of the clock to 8.
Wow.
That was his slider.
Wow.
And if you were a left-hander, there was a hole that ball went through that I don't care how you tried to swing, you weren't hitting it. You just have to ask Dave Parker because he could never hit him. He said it's the toughest pitcher he ever faced. His curveball was an optical illusion. It wasn't 12-6. It was like 25-6. Like it would start 4 feet over your head and end up right at the bottom of the box. And you were locked. Your knees were locked. And he was incredible to watch. He was very incredible to watch.
I can imagine there were
so
a
lucky.
lot of
Sunday Steve was I mean every Sunday. He pitched every Sunday.
Wow.
I mean, every
I
Sunday
can
home game.
imagine that there were a lot of batters that turned to umps and was like, that wasn't a strike.
There was
That
only
wasn't
one
a strike.
batter. There was only one batter I knew that didn't fear him and hit the hell out of him, and that was Johnny Bench.
Wow.
Johnny Bench was the only guy that owned Steve Carlton. It didn't matter what Steve threw. Johnny Bench beat him. I always feared Johnny at the plate against Steve. If you look at his splits, it was incredible. He's He's the only guy who could hit him when he was
Well,
in his prime.
wow. I mean, it's interesting to see or to feel like this could be what Andrew Painter, has the
Yeah,
potential to
it's
become.
exciting. It's
Yeah.
exciting. It's exciting.
But that's going to wrap it up for our show today. I want to say thank you to Frank Finnegan for joining us.
I'm so happy to join you guys. You picked me up on a down weekend. You picked me up.
Yeah,
Absolutely, anytime, brother. I
Yeah.
yeah,
want to
we,
give
we we got you, bud.
I
All right.
want to give you guys some announcements before we go. So me and James, Mitch Kopsky, and a couple other people over at Hardcore Sports Network are going to be starting a new program that is going to recap some of the Phillies games and Phillies action for you during the week. It's going to be on Mondays at 5 o'clock. Stay tuned for promotions and stuff on that show and on your social media channels. Make sure to subscribe and like Hardcore Sports Network. On Stream Punk Entertainment, me and James are going to be starting in June our new show called Philly Fame Legends, where we profile different Philadelphia sports legends and iconic locations in Philadelphia sports history. Please join us there. It'll be a lot of fun discussing, all of those things. We're going to be pre-recording those, so we'll let people know as they come out, like how you guys can catch it and watch it. Please feel free to subscribe and like and the Stream Punk Entertainment channel, as well as a project that we are potentially working on for the blind, where we are breaking ground on potential history with audio description and bring it into the sports field. It's
Wow.
going to be very interesting to deal
Yeah.
with. There's a lot of exciting things on the horizon for both me and James for Hardcore Sports Network and for Stream Punk Entertainment. But I want
Uh,
to say,
before
go ahead.
before we go, Joe, I want to just give a special shout out to Mitch Kovsky too, because coming up this Friday will be the debut of the Fly Like an Eagle. Like me and Mitch Kovsky will be talking everything birds and the NFL draft and all that too. So please tune in to that on Hardcore Sports Network, and I would be sure Stream Punk Entertainment if I'm not sure to be
Yes.
exact. But also, like I said, it's a new thing here for me as well. So I'm kind of like a little busy. But the difference is, I mean, I got stuff to stay busy with your stuff as well, Joey. So I could also stay busy with other stuff too. But please always hit that subscribe button on Stream Punk Entertainment and also Hardcore Sports Network, and also like I said, keep a close eye out for all of us here for the Philly Fame Legends things and then also Fly Like an Eagle too, and also Wesley checks in before we get out of here. He says Mitch Kovsky's phenomenal. The boss man, that's exactly right, my friend. That's exactly right. Like I said, Fly Like an Eagle this weekend. We got Philly this week in Phillies baseball coming up very, very soon. Don't know about the name yet, but if we have any more information, we'll send it along to you. But guys, it's been a great show, and take us home, brother. Joey, take us home.
So,
Thank you for letting me sit in today. It was wonderful. Can't
Yeah,
wait to talk to you after the draft.
yeah,
yeah, man,
absolutely.
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
So for Frank Finnegan, for my producer extraordinaire James Scorza, I'm Joe
You got
Marks.
it.
We are the Patterson Ave Sports Show, and we are out.
Later.
Later.